So we all tend to have areas where body fat is more stubborn to come off. For instance, in men, it's pretty common to have a struggle with lower back fat in the love handles. For women, it's common to lose fat from up top quicker, but then struggle to lose fat from the thighs. Of course, this doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the same for you, as we're all different, and chances are whatever you tend to obsess and focus on the most is probably going to be a more stubborn area for you. By the way, before I get into how to lose the love handles, I never do this, but if you wouldn't mind, if you appreciate the videos that I put out, if you could leave a like on this video. It's one simple thing you can do to help, and I honestly rarely get to 100 likes. I would love to do that in this video and even set a goal of 200 likes, and I'd really appreciate your help in getting there. Now, the biggest thing you have to understand about losing something like love handles is it's gonna take time, so you have to have plenty of patience. The reason for this is because stubborn areas are stubborn because they tend to come off last. What this means is you're probably gonna have to lose most of the fat from other areas of your body before you tap into those fat cells. A good analogy for this would be to look at a roll of paper towels, because say for instance you want the last sheet on that roll, you can't get to that sheet until you go through all the other sheets to be able to get to it. With stubborn body fat, it works the same way. You're not going to get to it until you lose the fat from all the other areas first, and this is what makes it so difficult to lose and why so many people give up before they get there, because the longer you diet, the harder it's going to get, and it requires you to push past the difficulties that arise, both mentally and physically, to get to this next level. And this is why it's so important to not only look at scale weight as your measure of progress. You also want to take measurements to see if things are changing there. You want to pay attention to how your clothes are fitting, but perhaps most importantly is to make sure you're taking progress photos from the front, from the side, and also from the back. This is a step most people neglect, but it's so important to do so. And I know you might not want to take pictures now. You might not be very comfortable with how you look, but I'm telling you, everyone who doesn't take before pictures, not only are you going to make it more difficult on yourself, because down the road, as things stall out, it's really nice to be able to look back and go, okay, I actually am making progress. But even then, even without that, everyone who makes significant progress and doesn't take before pictures always ends up regretting it, because it's so fun and you're so proud to be able to look back and see what you've accomplished, and you don't have to share it with anybody else. Keep it for yourself, or just share with your coach if you have one. The other problem with not taking pictures, especially from all angles, is, as mentioned, you're going to lose fat from other areas first. So if you aren't looking at those other areas, you might be making progress and losing plenty of fat, but you just don't see it because you're not looking for it. This is especially true when it comes to your back, because a lot of people don't take pictures of their back, and you will lose from those areas over time. Plus, when it comes to love handles specifically, they're most visible from the back. So if you're not taking pictures from the back, how will you know if you're making progress there? Now, the other reason you need plenty of patience, besides just how long it takes to get to those areas, is because trying to rush the process is the very thing that's keeping you stuck. The reason for this is because of how adaptive the body is. Losing weight quickly may make the scale go down faster in the beginning stages, but not only is a lot of this weight things like water weight and possibly even muscle, which you definitely don't want to lose. The faster you lose weight, the more likely you are to lose muscle, but your metabolism is eventually going to adapt to what you're doing here. So when you reach these unavoidable plateaus, now you're stuck with no room to make more adjustments and get the process going again. And on top of that, this approach is going to make you more tired, cranky, hungry, and just overall feel worse as your body fights against it, all to get worse results in the long run. So we need to think big picture and not get so caught up in how fast you want to lose. Slow and steady really does win the race. Anyway, at this point, I think you can understand losing stubborn body fat, anything like love handles, is going to be a challenge. So it's important you have some accountability in place to keep yourself in check when your mind wants to wander. Sure, having a coach who can be objective with you when you can't with yourself is a big help. But even on your own, one of the best ways to do this and ensure you're going to get results is to make sure you're tracking your nutrition. If you're tracking your intake and measuring out your food and you're being consistent with things, now you know how much you're eating and you don't have to guess whether it's the right amount or not, or if you're being consistent or not. If you're losing, you know you're in a deficit. If you're not losing, you know you aren't and need to make some adjustments. Now, a lot of people use online calculators to try to get how many calories they should eat, but the problem is they can be highly inaccurate because they don't know anything about your body, your genetics, your diet history, and things like that. And while it's not like you can't use them, because no matter what you do, it's all about being consistent, monitoring, and making adjustments accordingly. But to me, you're better off, if you haven't been tracking and you're not sure where things are at, is to just keep doing things the same for a week, track during that time, and see what it looks like, and adjust from there. which I do have a video about how to adjust macros, not only from the start of your cut, but through all the plateaus and your entire way through a cut. So to make sure this video doesn't get too long, I'll put a link to that video in the description you can check out after this is done if you'd like. Of course, the other thing we need to pay attention to besides just nutrition are our activity levels, which I highly encourage you to make sure you're using a good resistance training program to get the best possible results, as nothing helps with body composition more than building muscle, and no ladies, it won't make you bulky. But not only does it help with body composition just because of your shape, but it also helps boost your metabolism so that you burn more calories just being yourself in everyday life. But for the record, this is something you should be doing, in my personal opinion, no matter what phase you're in, whether you're cutting, whether you're building, whether you're just trying to maintain, no matter what it is, stay on a good resistance training program and be consistent with it. The big change you're gonna make when it's time to cut is altering your cardio to get some extra calorie burn and help create the calorie deficit needed to lose body fat. As far as what type of cardio to do, there's positive and negatives to either approach, whether you like more intense cardio or more steady state cardio. And a lot of people do rely on more intense HIIT style cardio because you do burn more calories in a shorter amount of time, and you can possibly, much like strength training, get some of this epoch effect, which is basically where your body continues to burn extra calories beyond just when you're doing the workout itself. However, this type of cardio is hard to recover from, and it's more likely to run you down into the ground if that's all you're doing, and this makes it harder to keep up with. Plus, it's possible that you could be so drained from doing that intense cardio that you tend to lie around and not do as much throughout the day now because of it, and you're actually burning less calories just through your NEAT, which is kind of like your daily regular movements throughout the day, and you might just end up trading calories burned from one for the other with not netting much of a difference. But with more steady state cardio, yes, it takes longer to do to get the same amount of calorie burn, but it's much easier to recover from and less likely to run you into the ground. And honestly, one of my favorite things to do to help with fat loss is doing plenty of regular walking, which is highly underrated in my personal opinion. I think part of the problem is a lot of people have this tendency to think go hard or go home, and we hear these things all the time, but it's just not good advice. In fact, going on walks routinely, as well as doing some incline walking on a treadmill, plus some low intensity stationary bike exercise, were my main sources of cardio when I got the leanest I've ever been. So the trade-off really just comes down to effort versus time. If you want more time to do other things in your life, then doing more intense cardio will help you do that, but then you also have those physical drawbacks as well. Whereas if you have more time to put into your cardio, you're gonna feel better and it'll physically be easier to do, but now you'll have less time. Honestly though, my recommendation usually just comes down to finding something you enjoy and doing that, whatever it might be, because no matter what, sustainability matters, both for nutrition and exercise. If you just do something extreme because you think it's going to give you the best possible results, and you make this mad dash to the finish line, and you are only doing something to get the weight off, only to stop when you finally get there, you're just going to gain the weight back in a hurry anyways, especially knowing that your metabolism is going to be slow anytime you're done dieting. This doesn't mean you have to be as aggressive to maintain afterwards, and you can and should reverse diet, start getting your calories up, start taping your cardio down, pretty much no matter what, but you can never just be done. It has to be a lifestyle. The worst thing you could do is fall into the all or nothing mentality, as this is one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people fall into when it comes to their fitness journeys. So whatever type of exercise you enjoy and excites you and you'll be able to stick to, do that. Don't be afraid to include some foods that you enjoy, even if they aren't quote unquote clean. It's just all things in moderation, and as long as you account for it, you're gonna be good, which is just one more reason why I personally like tracking. If you plan on it, eat it, and account for it, now you're not off plan. Whereas if you're only looking at foods as good or bad, trying to stick to this strict diet, and then you have something else, now you feel like you're off plan. And a lot of times this just leads you to overeat because you are off plan and you have to get it all in now before your diet starts again tomorrow. Anyway, speaking of mistakes, there's several big mistakes many people make that keep them from reaching their weight loss goals. So to make sure you're not making these mistakes, make sure you check out this top video next. Otherwise, I think you'll like this bottom video instead. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I'll see you next time.